Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Life After Sunday, the midweek mic. We hope you've been having a good week so far. So, this is going to be our first official episode.
Episode one.
Episode one
Episode one.
of hopefully many of a million. So, we're going to be doing this a long time. So, hopefully, you enjoy it. A billion weeks. How many years is that? I don't know. You're right. But our first episode here is going to be based on last Sunday, which was June 22nd, last Sunday's sermon by Pastor Patty. So if you haven't seen it yet, go head over to Facebook and check out her video because it was a great message.
It would be under Life Church Ebensburg.
Yep.
Like I said in the introduction, if you watched that, she talked about umbilical cords.
Not just umbilical cords. What do I want to say?
Cutting our
Cutting the
past.
umbilical. Yeah. So it's not an actual umbilical cord, but that's what I'm trying to find the word for.
Of course she didn't talk about actual umbilical. It was more of like, the umbilical cord is what is nutrients to the baby. So supplying what is in your life. Are you allowing to be held by this cord of your past defeats or your past baggage that's keeping you down?
Yeah.
And as Christians, we shouldn't be, because through Christ, we are cutting the umbilical cord.
And there's freedom available to you as you walk with Christ.
Yes,
so
exactly.
It's cutting yourself from things possibly in your past that maybe an identity that you've carried that was put on by you or by someone else, or maybe you walked through a trauma. Just so many things that could be affecting you now. Maybe you're not even realizing it. Heavy things you're carrying and you don't need to be. So
Exactly.
Why would you want to walk around like that?
And they don't even have to be like super traumatic. I know some people have traumatic things in their history or their lives, and you can compare and you can be like, you know what, that was super traumatic. I don't have anything to be sad or worried about. And we don't through Christ. And it's not like.
But it happens to everybody.
It happens.
Like everybody carries stuff regardless. It doesn't have to be this huge crazy story. It can just be regular life, because life is hard and get you down sometimes, Yeah,
exactly. So she discussed about rejection, and I think everybody can really relate to that.
I think it's a really common that probably at least once in your life you felt it. So, not being invited to something, thinking other people are talking about you.
Exactly.
Just feeling lonely or left out.
And when we were talking about this in the car, we were just like, we know people who say they are just so secure in their selves that they don't
deal with these thoughts.
Yeah.
And we're like, what's that like?
We're like, what? We didn't know there are people like that. Like, for us, we're still working through these things. We're still working through rejection. We're still working through our traumas in life. And it does come up to bite us sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, we think we've completely cut and severed that umbilical cord, but then next thing you know, it comes and slaps me in the face, and I'm like, oh. And I think really what it has to do is with when it does slap you in the face, are you going to work in that rejection? Are you going to work in that fear? Or are you going to keep going and keep fighting just because God has released you from this?
Absolutely. So it's sometimes you pray to drop these things and to get rid of them, and maybe it doesn't all happen at once. Like, great if it does and you never have to deal with this again. But I think most of the time it's a process of growing and weaning this away. So it's coming up at you maybe daily at first, and you're constantly like, no, I'm not accepting that anymore, pushing it away. And then maybe it happens less and less, and maybe finally you don't have to deal with it. But I think initially at first you have to retrain yourself to not think that way.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. Is I know she used the new creation scripture. And I really feel like when I was growing up, I would hear that and I'd be like, you know what? I'm not a new creation. I feel like I haven't changed. Like I haven't been new. But it's really, you are a new creation because you are not somebody who has to stay in defeat. You're not somebody who has to stay in that rejection or that loss or that fear. You're not somebody who has to stay in it when it comes up. You know that there is a way out, that God has you. You read the scriptures over yourself. You can go in and find things that specifically talk to the issues or what the enemy's trying to bring up to you.
And I think too, if you listen to the sermon, you were like, wow, I'm still dealing with a lot of this. It's not a bad thing that you're realizing that. Like
It's a good
God's
thing.
pointing it out to you
Yeah.
so that you can address it. If you don't realize it's there, then you're not going to address it and not going to change and,
Mm-hmm.
feel better and find that freedom. So I think it's good to be like, yeah, I do still deal with rejection sometimes so that you can name it. So when it comes at you, you're like, I'm not taking rejection today.
Get behind me, Satan.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, we went through this recently with, you ever get a savings account started and like, you're like super excited about that savings account. And then you like open up the mail and you get this bill from like the water authority that says, hey, guess what? We're going to have to update your main line and you own it. So you
You're
have to pay for it.
responsible
And you're
for
like,
it.
just when I got the savings going.
This happens all the time. Yeah.
And it happened
Literally
recently.
all
And
the
so
time.
like, I like got the letter. I was just like a little defeated and upset because I'm like, you know what? Every time we're taking like 3 steps, it feels like somebody punches us and throws us back 5
Yeah.
steps. But I came upstairs. I was a little venting.
You were.
Right.
Yeah.
And I even identified it. I was like, you
Yeah.
know what? I'm just having a pity party right now. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to feel bad about myself.
And you said, I just need to sit in this pity party a minute, but then it's going to be
And
okay.
I know it's gonna pass because I
Yeah.
know God's gonna have this. And I came back from that like
Yeah. And that is a big change for you.
huge.
Like, and I should have like told you then
You should have had a party
that
for
I
me.
was proud of you.
You should have bought me a cake.
Dwayne did it. Dwayne made
Yeah.
progress.
Invited no one because
Yeah.
I want that cake by
I'll
myself.
come to the
It's a party for
You
one.
have to share it with me at least.
Okay.
But I was proud of you because
I was proud of me too.
yeah,
But it just shows
it was
that
good.
it's just something that you feel like you're never gonna get over. You're never gonna get over. Like I really never thought I would get over the control of finances, and like I still worry about things, and I'm still like, you know what, that's very expensive, or this is coming up, or we have new tires, we have
Yeah.
oil that needs to come up. We have
Yeah.
this like I don't know how expensive it will
Just
be.
4 kids in general.
4
is a lot.
kids who Caden just like, oh, guess what? My Nikes don't.
All the sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, all my Nikes don't fit, and then I put them on him and they fit, and I'm like,
I make him show me that they don't
Yeah.
fit because he just likes new shoes.
he like pushed his toes up.
But like baby formula, clothes for everybody.
Oh,
Like
man.
even just you want to go out to dinner one day, and for a family of 6, I know the baby's not eating yet, but crazy money. So just
I
we
don't
struggle with
think-
finances.
Yeah.
And in the past, you would have really let that bog you down. I think like getting a letter saying, "Oh, we need to pay for something else," when things are already tight.
And you know what's crazy is like it's always taken care of.
Absolutely.
It never. He never fails,
So we've seen God walk us through this so many
Yeah.
times because we've always been okay.
and it's just in the past I've always been like,
Yeah.
oh, it's not going to be this time. It's
Yeah.
not going to be okay this
When
time.
is God going to make it better?
Yeah.
But we've always been okay.
Mhm.
And that's God.
And so
taking
that was
care of
like
us.
something where I identified it, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna stay in this,
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna get angry at God. I'm not gonna turn away. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna be like, what's the point of following?
Right.
I'm always in this. Cut that umbilical cord and
Cut the cord.
didn't let it feed my life.
So good.
So that's some of the things that were discussed.
Yeah.
And Seth, you said like this sermon really hit you.
Oh, I could talk about this probably for days.
Well, we only have like a few minutes. I promised them
9 minutes.
that it would be 20 minutes
Okay.
or 30 minutes, but
Well, let me talk in a nutshell then. My whole life has been fighting rejection and dealing with rejection and insecurity and low self-esteem and feeling not good enough. I shared my testimony 1 year ago in church.
Mhm.
I don't know when it was, February last year, I
Mhm.
think. So like if you ever want to find the whole story, it should still be there. But like I walked through a lot of stuff as a child and took on all of this identity of not being good enough and feeling unwanted and feeling like what I said didn't matter and nobody actually cared about me. And I like as a young child and walked my whole life with that. And it was so heavy and I felt so alone always until the last 2 years. I feel like finally like something was clicking in me where I'm being set free from this stuff.
Mhm.
Where really now today I can say like 90% of my life is unaffected by this now. 90 to 100%. Like I really just in the last few months I'm rooted now in what God calls me. And so when something happens, I can be like, that's a lie. I know who I am. I don't need to stress about this. Like, I don't need to believe that. It's still, it tries to suck you in where I see somebody doing something without me and I'm like, oh, like, why wasn't I included? And then like, oh, you weren't good enough. You're not funny enough. You're not cool enough. They didn't want to call you. But then I'm like, that's a lie. That's a lie. Like, it's just all this stuff. And the thing is, it's made up in your head. Like, you're writing this whole narrative that is false in your head. And then you're believing that and living your life that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just crazy. The things we spin way out of control,
Yeah, it's not reality.
And it's,
It's
yeah,
like,
none of it's real. So if you can realize that and just take a step back and be like, this is the enemy trying to put me down. Like, I know these people love me. They didn't leave me out intentionally. It's not a big deal. Like, I know my worth in Christ, so I don't have to question it with anybody else, is what it comes down to.
And like even in those situations, like her dealing with some of those things, it was in our relationship kind of affecting us because you would shut down.
Right.
You would just shut down. Like I'm from a family and we show our emotions maybe a little too much. Like it's like
you're outspoken,
yeah,
we'll say.
Yeah. So and I like to have that
Yeah.
communication because I need to know what you're feeling. And then like you would just be like, meh.
And I'm not that way.
No, she would
So in
completely
my
shut
family,
down. Yeah.
we held it all in, or at least me. I hold it all in and suffer silently, and then distance myself. Like, I just like put a wall up, and will like separate myself from you because you hurt me somehow. And then nothing gets resolved that way. So, and then I just finally like bottle up and then maybe say something. But
And I remember one time I asked you, I'm like, I want to have this conversation. Like, I need to know what's going on. And it wasn't even like it was a fight or anything. It was just like we were at a difference of opinion on, I can't remember, but something that needed to happen. But what I do remember is you said, nobody ever really cared about my opinion. Yeah. Like you felt like nobody cared.
Yeah. Like if my words didn't matter, then why should I even voice it?
So like, I was like, no, I care about you and I care about the opinions that you have. Yeah. But what I needed to realize in those situations is it wasn't like a spiritual maturity per se, but it was just like in that moment, I knew she was immature in her reflection of who she is and what her voice was. So I needed to find ways to build her up in this and help kind of guide her to what God wanted for her and to know that she is here. She has a purpose. Her voice matters. And it's something that needs to, be spoken to in a microphone. So I think it's also very important. And Patty did touch on this, that whenever we are dealing with people who seem like they're blowing up or they're just like very easily offended, you need to step back and not get into that. You need to realize that it's something in them that might be a little immature
or
the time.
They're coming from a hurt place that's not healed, and that's why they're responding that way. So like, you yelling back at them isn't going to help at all, like
get in the confrontation.
Really have to show grace and love. And it's hard, like if they're not realizing that hurt and addressing it, but you're seeing it, like, it's hard.
Yeah.
But it's something that needs healed in them, before anything else can happen.
Yeah. And I think it's important for us to just like give people that grace.
Just remind yourself, like they're talking from a place of hurt, and I know that, so I'm not going to take their words personally.
Yeah. I know, like, the things that I went through, the traumas I went through as a kid, I still deal with them. Yeah. And, I'm getting better with the things that I felt like the rejection or the feeling not good enough and things. And I've been working through them. But then, there will be those times where I feel it. Like, I can feel the comparison, I would say, the comparison dragon coming up and being like,
that's a hard one.
These people are good. You're not, even buying this podcast stuff, we were like,
we felt silly buying microphones at Walmart. We were like, are we good enough for this?
These people are going to think we're not good enough. And like, that's just stuff that the enemy's putting into our minds to make us like stay in our past.
Because if we listened, we wouldn't have done this, and who knows where this is going to go, what God's going to use it for. So don't let those thoughts stop you,
Yes. And something else that I thought was really good that, she kind of maybe touched on was just, being a victim to your past.
Yeah.
Like, it's not downplaying what you've went through. Like, what you could have went through, the traumas that you went through we see them and they're there, they're
Yeah.
real.
Awful things that people walk through.
But we can't just keep falling back on that to play victimhood
Yeah.
of why we can't step out into what
Yeah.
God wants to call us. I know for me, like the things that I went through, it was like, I mean, I saw death and my innocence and everything, my childhood innocence was
Yeah.
taken from me very early in life. And so when I interpret things or I see things, it was very like not how a child would,
Yeah.
interpret things. And I was so fearful of death. I mean, if any, it's Steph,
Still working on it. It comes in waves, I feel
yeah,
like, with
yeah.
you.
But the thing is my life, I always felt like the Final Destination. If anybody's ever seen them, I don't, because it will scare you. We don't want to put fear in our lives. But when I was a kid, I watched it, and for anybody who doesn't know, like I was supposed to, I guess, die. Like there was a drunk driver who went off the road and was coming right at me, and I moved, and unfortunately it did get my two cousins and they passed away. And just that whole trauma of that situation, I carried it, and I felt like, as in like the Final Destination movies, like death was this thing that was just gonna get me at some point.
Yeah. You felt like it was always coming
It
for
was
you.
always there,
Yeah.
always there. And I grew up with just thinking like, not being so free in my life, like knowing that things are so heavy and there are these people who like to prey on you and these situations that you just can't get through. I mean, it was a nice summer day that day.
Right.
It was super nice. We got candy. We had McDonald's. What movie was just coming out? Oh, Tarzan just came out. Like, yeah, it was, that was my Tarzan McDonald's toy. And then like, bam, it was like my whole life changed at that moment. And I mean, before that, I had past traumas that would have,
Yeah.
you've
had a lot of heavy stuff
slowly
as a
killed
kid.
me. Slowly like took away things from me. And I would fall back onto those victimhoods, I guess, and wouldn't want to live life to my fullest just because I didn't want to make a mistake, because my life was, I felt like, saved, and I felt kind of guilty about it.
Yeah. There's survivor's guilt as a thing,
And so I was like, you know what? I can't do this, because what if I fail at it? What if I would go back on that. Or I can't do this because what if somebody, makes fun of me, or all of that stuff. And to tie back to that Final Destination thing, I just thought death was going to come to me. And it's really weird. May 16th is my birthday. And I saw Final Destination just came out with a movie May 16th. And I was like, what is happening? But you know what?
But we laughed about it.
I changed. Yeah. I was like, there's nothing coming
We're
after
not
me, 'cause
afraid of death.
God has saved me. There's purpose for my life. There's purpose for everybody's lives. And, it's just, I can't fall back on my past traumas to keep me from walking in what God wants me to do.
And using that also, like, to justify your actions. So if you are someone who was, dealt with rejection, so you're lashing out about things, like, you can't justify it with that anymore. I think, like, it's your responsibility kind of to go to Christ with that and to get inner healing, so that you're not hurting other people in the process, you know?
Because for me personally, I had anger. I would just fly off the handle for absolutely nothing, because everything had to be in order.
Control.
Control. I like to make sure I knew what was happening, the schedule was happening, and it probably has something to do with like things that I've gone through, but I can't use that.
Right.
Like I can't be like, oh, you know what? I get angry because of this. I do this because of that. No, because I'm not supposed to.
And she said, Pastor Patty talked about how you're naming that as your own, like, oh, that's just my anger speaking again, and like laughing it off, like, oh, that's just my low self-esteem. Oh, that's just my insecurity. Like, why are you claiming that as your own and still walking in that?
There's a point where you have to be like, I don't want this.
Right.
I don't want this.
That's not me.
This isn't
it's
me.
not
God
a part
has
of
not called me.
It's not just a part of your personality, it's God has more for you,
Exactly. So we have to come to realization that there are changes that we have to make, and that these things are what God has called us. He hasn't spoken anger over me. He hasn't spoken rejection, defeat, to be quiet, to not walk in the will that he wants me to walk, that there is more to everybody in the world.
And just know too, as you're working on these things, and it's not like an instant fix, like when those thoughts come in and you're realizing that they're coming in, that's progress. Because before you just would have let it in, and now you're like, whoa, you're like, why am I still getting these thoughts? But just realizing that those are the negative thoughts, that's progress, because then you can stop it and speak truth instead.
Exactly. It says like you captivate those thoughts, and when you captivate those thoughts, you have to really analyze them. You have to be like, you know what, is this from God?
Who's it coming from?
It's not from God. God would not want me to be angry. God would not want me to fly off the handle.
Right.
I mean, yeah, Jesus flipped some tables, but it was justified, right? Like, if I flip a table, it doesn't mean I can't flip a table, right?
Right.
I can still flip a table, but it has to be good. It can't be like, oh, I lost in Monopoly. No.
Yeah. Well, we're a little competitive.
I don't even play games because I'm so competitive. I just stay away from it.
We don't let them play anymore.
It's still healing over that, I guess.
Yeah, we're working on it. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. But I just think like, you know, it's very important for us to not just fall back on those things.
And I've been telling our kids, you know, because childhood is hard too, and we're dealing with a lot of emotions and, you know, how to bring Jesus into their lives at a young age so that they're not dealing with things later, hopefully. But I'm just telling them, you know, Holy Spirit lives in you. So the fruits of the Spirit are literally inside of you. It's just you exercising those things. Like you have it. You don't have to pray to get it. Like, because who knows, when you pray for something, God gives you a chance to use it. It's not just like, here's all this peace that you have now that you can extend to everybody. It's a situation where can you respond in craziness or can you respond in peace?
Don't ask for peace and then he'll give you 4 kids.
Or patience, self-control. So it's more like you get a chance to exercise that fruit is what you get when you pray for that. So you have it in you already. It's just, it's literally like.
Now I want to preface, like I want to explain something, because I feel like people are like, well, I don't want that fruit. It's fruit and it's great. And
it's character
when
building.
you actually, when you get that character in there and you can find that peace and that joy, when others in the world would look at it and say, how can you find joy in this situation? I mean, finding joy, and you and I love to laugh. We love to laugh. We love to find joy. And finding that in those situations where people would cry and people would just like throw hands up to God in anger, and you know, we can laugh about it. We can be like, guess what? I got a water bill and it stinks. And of course, this is the amount that I have in my savings. And this is the amount that's coming out of my savings, you know, and we laugh about it now, where before we wouldn't have laughed about it. We would probably freaked out and got 5 jobs to try to figure out what to do. But I think.
But I think your relationship with Christ is known by the fruit in your life.
Exactly.
So
you want that fruit.
If you're not walking in the fruit, then like, what are people seeing Christ as in your life? You know, like it should be visible that you are following Christ because you are peaceful, because you are joyful, because you are patient, because you are kind.
Like, who doesn't want the ultimate peace?
And that's a better way to live, right? Yeah. So you're not rocked by whatever you're walking through.
Be in this total chaos. And to go back to like rejection, I think, you know, rejection, you'll look at other people and see that they have acceptance. So you find that you're comparing yourselves to others, and then you start getting jealousy, you start getting envy, and
it leads to all the other bad things.
You know, and you self-destruct, really. You start losing that identity that Christ really wants you to have, and you're just living in pure chaos. And you know, Jesus gives you, even in a chaotic world or the storms and stuff, he's going to give you that peace.
It's the peace,
you know. So and I, like you were talking about our children and things, and just like generational curses and patterns that we have. I mean, like, I'm sure the things and the anger that I got was probably from things that my parents went through when they were children, and their parents went through. And
for sure.
And, you know, to be one of the people who say, okay, it's going to end here, I'm going to stop it here. It's really difficult for our oldest one because, you know, maybe we're going through these things.
We're learning parenthood with them. So,
but, you know, through these changes, I mean, I saw my parents go through things, and like they developed different character, and they developed their faith and their maturity and faith. And like, you can see them growing. And then when I got older, they would tell me some things that happened in their past, and I like it clicked, and I was like, you know what, that's why that happened, but I can see that they're actually changing,
Right.
how they react to situations or what they're going through. They're not relying on their past to make the decisions of their
Absolutely.
future or
Yeah.
their present. So I think that's really what the message was about, was just to not live in that past, not live in that rejection, and not use it as a crutch to not move forward with what God has
Absolutely.
planned
Yeah.
for you.
Like, don't be stagnant, take accountability and call it what it is and cut it out.
Mhm. I know
Cut the cord.
it's gonna be scary.
Yeah. And it's hard. It might be a daily battle
It's
for
gonna be
you.
very hard. You have to pick up that cross daily,
Yeah.
and you have to carry it, and you have to die to yourself daily, your
Absolutely.
flesh.
Yeah.
And but the outcome is it gets easier. You just become a better person.
Yeah.
You just feel freer.
Right.
You feel like a weight has been lifted. It's like, oh, you know what? I didn't yell at the children like an insane person because something stupid happened.
Yeah.
Or I didn't completely fall apart when somebody said this to me.
Yeah.
I didn't go
It's a
into
rock to stand
self-loathing.
on,
Yeah, and
like,
he's a perfect rock to stand on.
yeah.
So it's just build your foundation off of him and just keep building and
Yeah.
growing with God and cut that umbilical cord.
Yeah. Cut the cord to the bad stuff.
Yeah. So that has been the
Okay.
Life After Sunday midweek mic. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We will get better at this, we promise.
We're still newbies. We're
We are
practicing.
still learning,
Yeah.
but we're super excited to keep going with this. Again, Life Church Evansburg. If you don't have a home church, we have one for you.
Yeah.
It's Life Church Evansburg. It will be at 9:30 if you want some snacks
Cafe
and
time.
cafe time. But if you can't get up that early, we start at 10 o'clock. And we have worship and sermons. We have a kids' church. So we welcome everybody to come.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourselves. Find a family that will build you up and help you
And
through.
come expect God to move,
Yes,
Spirit
definitely,
yeah.
definitely. So if we don't see you Sunday, we'll talk to you Wednesday. Have a good one.
Bye.